So I know I just posted a video a few hours ago, and I actually recorded that yesterday, but one of the things I know I really wanted to talk about is why this bar exam is so important, what is sort of happening with me internally with this bar exam that is different than the other bar exams I've taken. And just to recap, because I know that there is a couple of people out there who are sharing these videos with friends who are taking the bar exam, or family who have friends and family that are taking bar exams. So let me just recap. I've taken the Colorado bar exam twice before, in the summer of 2003 and the summer of 2004. So here we are, 2012, and I am taking it again. In fact, today I had an email exchange with one of my friends who was in my very first study group, a core group of us, of about 7 or 8 of us, who always studied together. And of course, he has moved on to be a very successful attorney, which we all knew that he would be. And so it was a little bit embarrassing to remind him that I did not pass the bar when we all took it together, and to admit that I'm taking it again. And that is probably what is prompting me to make this video tonight. It is nighttime, so my lighting is different and actually looks a little bit better, so maybe I'll be doing this at night from now on. And this is just free-forming it. I don't have an outline like I normally do, where I want to hit some major points. I just kind of want to free-form it and just talk about it. When I took the bar exam the first time, in July of 2003, I had just graduated from law school, like most people who are taking the bar exam. I was, sorry, that's my phone. I was 5 months pregnant when I took the bar. And I remember going through bar prep with all of my friends, and, you know, I'd have to leave to go to a doctor's appointment, or I was also closing on a house and getting ready to move into a new house. So when everyone else was going off to a coffee shop in the afternoon or staying in the library to study, I was going home, throwing all of my stuff into boxes and moving into a house. And it was necessary for us to buy a house at that point, because my son was starting school. We had a baby coming. We didn't have enough room for a baby and for my eldest son, so it made sense to buy a house at that point. Also, our lease was ending, so either, you know, we got out at the end of July, which would have been really horrible timing, or we found a new place to live. And so forces conspired in that regard. But yeah, I was in the process of moving. I was closing on a house. I was trying to unpack once I did move. I was incredibly uncomfortable. I had been losing weight throughout most of my pregnancy. You know, when everyone else is supposed to be gaining so many pounds, I was actually losing that many pounds. And I don't know if that was the stress. I really don't know what was causing that. What I do know is once we moved into the house, I ballooned out like nothing else. So by the time I showed up to the bar exam itself, all of my study friends basically took a look at me like, my God, you're actually pregnant. Because I did. I bust out a full 5 months pregnant. The day before the bar exam, maybe a couple of days before, is when we found out that I was going to be having a boy. He was not kicking yet. He waited until the second half of the MBE before he started kicking. And I remember that very, very fondly. And that was the point at which I probably should not have taken it. I probably should have withdrawn or something, but I felt this need to keep up with my peers, to keep up with my friends. I didn't have a really good reason to take the bar exam for myself. I was in the process of doing a dual degree with a master's in public policy. And I knew that that ultimately is where my career was going to be. Obviously, that's not where it's ended up, but there's a lot of other reasons on top of that. But I really felt like, okay, this is the thing you're supposed to do when you graduate law school. And I think if there's any piece of advice that I have to anyone taking the bar exam, and one of the biggest factors I had in not passing it was not having a good reason to take the bar. Obviously, if you have a job coming up, if your dream has been to help people with their wills or whatever, while there are certainly avenues that you can pursue that don't require a law degree and don't require a license to practice law, if it's what you've always dreamed of, if this is your ultimate, then yes, you have a really good reason to take the bar exam. For someone like me who really felt like an outsider in the legal profession, who really felt like I didn't belong, I didn't do law review, I didn't do moot court, I didn't do any of the things that everyone else did. I really was somewhat of a nonconformist, somewhat. Still conformed in many, many important ways, but I didn't go through the same route that other people did, and nor did I have the same motivation that other people did. So trying to have a good reason to study commercial paper, to look at the federal rules of evidence, to connect all those dots and jump through all these hoops, I was going through the motions of it, and it was very, very apparent with the way that I was studying. And I've said this several times in these videos, that I've done more practice now than I did back then, both times combined. So yeah, I showed up to the bar exam really 5 months pregnant. I had gained a lot of weight in a really short amount of time in that pregnancy. Got to see my son for the first time in an ultrasound, and you know, I ended up, I think, choosing his name the night before the bar exam. So my mind was somewhere else. It was not on the bar, and it was not on all the things I needed to do. Now, there are certain subjects like family law that I know intuitively, and I know it really well. Civil procedure was another one. Colorado civil procedure was something that I had worked with several times before, and so was relatively good at it. There were other things, though, like evidence and real property, that were just killing me. And there was a point that I remember I was getting up so often during the bar exam to go to the bathroom that even the proctors were looking at me with sorrow and pity because they understood the condition that I was in. They understood that I was pregnant, and they understood that I was probably as uncomfortable as any person could be. Now, this is a really long story, so just bear with me and hang in. When I was done with the bar exam, you know, after the essays the first day, everyone's chattering. And that's something I really want to avoid this time around. But everyone's chattering like, oh, what did you put on that contracts problem? My God, it was so hard. And you're thinking, what contracts problem? I don't remember a contracts problem. I remember a secure transactions problem that had a contract in it. Was that it? And you start second guessing yourself, and you start wondering whether you just completely screwed up. And so then you put all sorts of pressure on yourself to master the MBE. And you get to the MBE and you freak out because, I mean, you're lucky if you have a minute or 2 minutes left at the end of that. I certainly didn't. And so if you screw up on the MBE, you're thinking, God, I screwed up on the essays because I didn't catch that contracts problem. Never mind the fact that there probably was not a contracts problem, that everyone's just letting go of what is all the self-doubt and negativity that's in their head. They're just spewing it out because it has nowhere else to go. But it's such a high pressure time. And at the end of it, at the end of the bar exam, about a week after the bar exam, I was, you know, everyone who's pregnant goes through a test for gestational diabetes, and I tested positive for gestational diabetes. And to this day, my doctors pretty much agree that I was gestationally diabetic in part because of all the stress that I was putting on myself. Now, all the stress that I was putting on myself, even though, yes, buying a house was necessary, even though pregnancy was something I didn't want to reverse, so I wanted to continue on and have that baby, and the pressures of my master's program were also sort of weighing down on me because the master's program was on a trimester system, and the start times were very different, and I was still sort of in school while I was studying for the bar exam. All of those things were still choices, and choices that I did affirmatively make. Well, let me take back the word affirmatively. There are some I just let happen. I didn't do anything to really manage those choices, and what I thought I was doing to manage those choices actually ended up being a way for me to distract myself from the fact that, again, I did not have a good, independent, solid, motivating reason to take the bar exam. So fast forward to October 2003, when all of us are kind of calling each other to let each other know that the bar results are out, and I noticed that my name is missing. And I see all of my friends' names. I think there was one of my friends that did not pass, or two of my friends that did not pass either. One of them successfully appealed their score and is having a great time in their career now. Another one, I think, passed in February after. And it was, I don't deal well with disappointment. In fact, I pretty much deny disappointment. I don't acknowledge that as a legitimate feeling. And I had, as an incentive, I had promised myself this one necklace if I passed the bar exam. And the first thing I did is I went out and I bought that necklace. I failed the bar exam, and I rewarded myself for it anyway because I wanted to make myself feel better. You know, retail therapy. I was totally into retail therapy at that point. And I had to sit there and think about whether I was going to take the bar again. Obviously, if you fail, you have a lot of considerations. You have to consider time and money and energy, and again, that motivation to take the bar. For me, time was going to be an issue. My baby was due December 8th. And little did I know that I was going to spend about 3 weeks with, that I would go into labor 3 times with that baby. So, and that he would show up 3.5, 4 weeks early. I also had somewhat I had to put my master's degree on hold because of the gestational diabetes and the sort of threat to my life, and the diabetes was just all over the place and just unmanageable. Diet wasn't working, and we were on the verge of using insulin at that point. And these are all just real life situations that people have to go through and people have to consider. And so if I was going to take the February 2004 bar, I would have to put the master's program on hold again, which I had a requirement that I had to graduate within 1 year of receiving my law degree in order for the credits to appropriately transfer between the two programs. And so I had to consider that. I had to consider the fact that I would still be actively nursing during that time. Not even having met this child yet and understood his personality and the effect he would have on me. I had a stepson, and this was my first actual child that I was carrying. So there was a lot of unknowns that I had to take into consideration. Money was going to be absolutely a factor. And again, this was before we knew that I was going to be hospitalized 3 times for this pregnancy. And before we knew that he was going to end up in the ICU and things like that. If I had re-registered for the bar exam I would have been doing it the week he was born, and that just ridiculous. And then obviously the energy and motivation were not necessarily there. So I did take time off between, after that bar exam, and to bond with my son and get started again in my policy program so I could continue moving on through there. I had to do an internship that semester or that trimester or whatever, and it was really, really difficult to, again, find that motivation. And so when I decided to take the July 2004 bar exam, my body was still healing from the pregnancy. It was a really difficult pregnancy on me. It has changed my body for life. And I was still trying to manage all the expectations of raising a 6-year-old and an infant and supporting my husband through school, because he was going to be starting school again right after I would be finishing the bar. So we were trying to prepare ourselves financially for that reality. When I took the 2004 bar exam, again, I was trying to finish this master's program. I was under a lot of pressure to get it done. Originally, my thesis would have been due a week after the bar exam. My 40-page master's policy memorandum would have been due a week after the bar exam. So that means my final, second to last final draft would have been due 2 weeks before the bar exam. And so I appealed, and and tried to get an extension. The extension was denied and denied and denied. Maybe not 3 times over, but it was denied because whoever was in charge said that my pregnancy was not a medical emergency and not a medical excuse to not finish my degree on time. So I was also having to deal with finishing incompletes that I had to take from all the times that I was hospitalized in the fall of 2003. And eventually they did relent, but they relented around this time that year. So around the end of June 2004, leaving me about less than a month to fully prepare and concentrate only on the bar exam and not on my policy memorandum. They were only giving me an extension by a quarter or whatever, which would have put it into September, which still means that I would have had a draft due sometime in July. And I ended up not doing it. I ended up not dropping the policy program because I still would not have been able to graduate. I would have had to redo all those credits, and I still would have had to finish all those incompletes and everything else before the fall quarter started. And that was asking a lot, especially considering the fact that I was unemployed, in part because I had been pregnant and finishing a master's program full-time and taking the bar exam. So right after the bar exam, my priority had to be on finding a job. So like I said, I'm just free-forming here, and it's a really, really long video, and you're going to have to just excuse me because this is a part of my story. And if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I do need to tell it, and I need to connect these dots. When I took the 2004 bar exam, my family was also undergoing quite a drastic shift. My marriage was undergoing a drastic shift. Not bad in any way, something very productive and good for us, but still something I needed to pay attention to, and something that frankly I was using to distract me. Well, why would I distract myself? Because I still didn't have a good reason to take the bar exam. I still did not really truly want to be an attorney. I wanted to focus on public policy and legislation, and frankly, you don't necessarily need a law degree to do it. It's helpful, and people will certainly respect you and listen to you if you have a law degree, but it ain't required by any means. So walking into the 2004 bar exam, I can promise you that I was not nearly as prepared as I would be today. I firmly believe I would do better on the bar exam today, even not having finished all of the bar assignments and whatnot, than I was in 2004. 2004, I literally just drifted by. I did not take Barbary. I think I ordered PMBR, so it was a lot of sort of on your own tapes and stuff like that, and practice questions, and absolutely no guidance, no feedback. I don't think we submitted essay answers. I don't think we really practiced essays, because I was looking through my old essay book. I did keep everything. And the essay book has been used, but I only practiced, I think, one essay in each subject. Right now, I've logged about maybe 2 essays per subject so far, and there's more to come. It's not perfect. There's some subjects like trust that I have been avoiding like the plague, although I do understand it a lot more now. I don't remember the 2004 bar exam. It's not even that I blanked it out. I wasn't present. I wasn't there in my head at all. I had a friend who, for the 3 nights before the bar, he kept threatening suicide. If I got off the phone with him, if I got offline with him, whatever, he was threatening suicide. And he lived very far away. And I allowed it to distract me, but at the same time, obviously I know now how manipulative it was. And it's not, I take suicide very seriously, and I take my friends and my chosen family and my family very, very seriously. So when someone needs my help, I'm there. And I did not have the ability back then, like I do now, to set boundaries and limits and really enforce and embrace my own selfishness. I didn't believe in myself, so I allowed other people to pull me away from my goals. Because in all honesty, those weren't really my goals. And so my entire energy, you know, if you have a dream, if you have a goal, you push all of your energy and all of your effort and all of your belief and all of yourself in that direction. Well, I didn't really have a direction. Yeah, I was going to take the bar, but again, it was sort of this thing in my head, okay, I have to do it, because it was so embarrassing when I didn't pass. And so I was trying to overcome this really embarrassing, humiliating, discouraging, disappointing thing that I wasn't really naming what any of those emotions were. And it's not to say that that's not a reason to take the bar, but it shouldn't be your only reason. And that was my only reason to take the bar at that time. I was not ready. I was not mentally ready. I was not mentally ready to tell my family no. I was not mentally ready to put my son in his crib and walk away for 8 hours to go study. It was just not feasible for me. I went through the motions. I mean, I'd bring my book with me every day and I'd flip through it, but nothing stuck. Nothing ever entered into my head because I had no reason for it to. We are sensing a pattern and a purpose to this here. A lot has changed in the last 8 years. Shortly after I found out I failed the bar exam, I had a fantastic interview with a fantastic nonprofit that I ended up working for 2 years. And I had to leave that job for less than ideal reasons. It's not even anything that I did wrong or anything that they did wrong, just a circumstance. And I have carried the guilt of that on top of the guilt of the 2003 bar exam and the 2004 bar exam, and feeling like I wasn't there for my boys, feeling like I wasn't there for my husband, feeling like whatever. All this guilt has accumulated. And today I received a wonderful letter from my former employer about the circumstances surrounding that, because that was something that was very nerve-wracking for me in applying for this year's bar, and it's helping to alleviate some of the worry and frustration and anxiety that I have over the bar right now. In the last 8 years, a lot has changed. Everybody grows. If you're not growing in any given amount of time, then you might need to kind of check yourself, because growth is good for us. It's good for me. And in those last 8 years, I've learned a lot about what I want out of life, who I am, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. A lot about how I manage stress, how I accumulate stress, why I accumulate stress, what I have done, not only with the bar exam, but with many areas of my life that have sabotaged me. I have learned, especially in the last few months, how this failure, and I use that term very deliberately right now on the bar exam, affected how I viewed myself, how I viewed my value and my worth throughout the rest of my life, in my connections with other people, in my parenting, in my work in particular, that I always settle for less. And not always, but I am always inclined to settle for less, because I feel like I'm not deserving of anything more, because of, and it all sort of started to snowball. I mean, those tendencies were there, but it started really, really snowball when I failed the bar exam. Not once, but twice. And I have learned in recent months to start reframing that, like I would in a mediation. I wouldn't frame something like this as a failure. I would point out to someone that you simply weren't ready. This wasn't the right time. You didn't know enough. You didn't have the right tools. You didn't have the right reasons. Again, same purpose here. Already I'm finding this to be a very healing experience. And so therefore I can feel like I can safely say, you know what, I didn't fail. I didn't prepare, and I wasn't prepared, but that test run was incredibly valuable to this experience. And this time around, I'm not going to fail. And even if I don't pass, even if I don't earn a passing score, I think I have overcome a lot of the patterns that led to not passing before. And I think that is probably the most important lesson, and that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to share this with people. There are other videos out there, and there's certainly tons of blogs out there. And everyone seems like they are just rushing forward, like, all right, I failed, I'm going to get back on there and do it again. And yeah, that's a great response, and that's a wonderful response. It's not always authentic to what is actually inside of you. Because if you're someone like me who does take failure quite personally, then these are the videos that you want to be watching. These are the sort of inspirational moments and bonding moments that you want to have, because it is possible to repair that damage. It is possible to really look at it objectively, not critically, but objectively. And it's okay to be kind to yourself when looking at your prior bar exam experience or your practice experience or whatever it is that may have discouraged you or keeping you, whatever's keeping you discouraged from taking the bar again. That's why I wanted to do these videos. That's why I think this bar exam is going to be very, very life-changing for me, even if I don't end up on the passing list. I will have repaired a lot of the damage that I did to myself with my own negative thinking, with my self-doubt, with my, I don't know, with my anger and frustration and denial of my very real disappointment in myself. And so I do try to meet each day reminding myself that every effort I have taken up to this point is far beyond what I did last time. And that itself is the victory, and that itself creates something extraordinary inside of me. And not many people really talk about sort of a personal journey in that same respect. They give you a lot of tips, and they give you a lot of ideas on the technical how to pass the bar exam. But I really care more about how to grow from the bar exam and how to allow something like not passing help you grow. So that is already happening, and that is already healing. And yesterday I really, really, really just wanted to quit because I was not doing well in evidence. And today I'm plodding through. I'm on commercial paper today, going to leave evidence behind for the rest of the night and plod through commercial paper and make it make sense to me. And if I can connect the dots, that's a win. So here's to winning yourself back on the bar exam.